We're back at Branson's at taking this, the brand new Honda CB1000 for 2025. Now, as you can tell, this is the standard one, so we're going to test it out. We're going to see what the fuss is about and why it seems a lot of YouTubers are buying one of these. Well, we're not going to work it out, we'll stood around, so let's jump on it. I always find putting the key in, that helps. We can pretend it's keyless all we want, but it ain't going to work, is it? I'm just going to go have a little blast, because I know there's some twisty bits just up here. And then we'll come back, do a little bit of town riding, do some more back roads, and then, yeah, we'll pull over, have a little chat. Now, it's not the warmest of days today. The ground is damp, so I'm going to take a little bit easy. Got it in standard mode at the minute. Put it into sport. On a dry day, this bike would be a lot of fun, put it that way. Now, I don't know if it's these trousers or whether it's the seat, but it does feel a little bit slippery. Kind of moving around a bit too much for my personal liking. But like I'm saying, that's not particularly, or not potentially, the bike's fault. Just going to do a little bit of town riding. The clutch pull is really nice and light. The biting point is kind of as soon as you start to release it, which is where I personally like it. The throttle can be a little snatchy on that on and off that first 10%. So I've got it in sport mode at the minute. So just whilst we're talking about the modes, there are 5 different modes. So we've got rain, standard, sport, user 1 and user 2. Obviously you can adjust the parameters of user 1 and user 2. When you are adjusting the parameters, I think the main areas are engine braking and power and traction. Or traction control, should we say. But in rain mode, it is much smoother on that initial pickup. Got to remember, there's no quick shifter as standard on the normal CB Hornet, CB1000 Hornet. But if you do want it, it is an optional extra. You can either buy it standalone or in a package. I'm not too sure about the handlebars. I'm so used to like the big adventure kind of wide stance handlebars. I'm not sure if these are normal size or potentially just a little bit closer together, or whether that's just in my mind. On my mind, on my money, on my money, on my mind. Even though we don't have a quick shifter on this, if you do want to shift up or down, all you do, as soon as you're rolling your wrist off the throttle, that's when you change gears, and it's just that sweet spot, and it'll change for you, so you don't have to do the clutch. That's what I love about naked bikes, is they hit that sweet spot between usable within the commuting world, easy around town, but then you get out into the back roads and you can have some fun. Fairly skinny, light, nimble, perfect for cutting through traffic and then cutting up some roads. I do find, I'll have a look in a minute, I think it might be the exhaust, but my right foot, the heel keeps hitting something when I'm going to put my feet on the pegs. Let's start looking at this bike then. So the engine in this is 1000 cc's with 150 brake horsepower with 104 newton meters of torque. When we pull over, I will cover off some of the differences between the standard and the SP. But at the minute, everything I say is the standard bike. Honda have managed to do what BMW and Ducati just can't do at the minute, and that is to keep the price down. This thing is so cheap in the realms of biking and that kind of top tier flagship bike. This thing comes in at only £8,999, and now for your money it's difficult. You kind of say, well, you don't really get a whole lot. Because when I do these reviews, I do my research, I write down the specs and everything this bike's got. And the list isn't that long. So, starting off what we do have. At the front, we've got LEDs all round. We've got a 5-inch TFT screen, which does have the Honda Sync, which I assume will connect to your phone. No quick shifter, no cruise control, no heated grips. Mode button. We have a mode button. We have a horn. And that's about it. I do believe under the rear passenger seat there is a 12-volt USB charger. Apart from that, there's no charger at the front. You'd have to add them on after the fact. And like I'm saying, that's kind of it. But let's flip it on the side and say, well, what is it you do get? You get a bike that is extremely affordable on today's market. In today's market. You get Honda reliability. We've got those rider modes that really do make a difference to how this thing handles. We've got a very torquey engine down low, which again is perfect for that naked bike kind of sector. Like, you want it down low, you want that grunt there. You don't want to be up at the 10,000 RPM just to be hitting the power band. I think the bike looks good. Now, I know people say the front end is like the Ducati Street Fighter, and now for me, when I first saw this bike, my mind went straight to the Kawasaki Z900. I think all three are very, very similar. They've managed to save money on this by using some of the parts that they've got on other bikes. So if you look at the rear section and the tail tidy, they're off like the 650, 750 range. Now, although the brakes are only Nissan, actually at the minute I can't fault them. Like I said, the ground is wet and I'm not pushing it too hard, but so far the brakes feel very nice and responsive. I must say my bum is a little bit numb at the minute. Not the most comfortable seat, but I'm no skinny chicken. 115 kilos, 6'1". Obviously on this we don't have any form of windshield, so that does mean that we get a really nice bit of clean air to the body. No strange buffeting, which is always something that annoys me when they do a screen but it's just too short and the wind's hitting in the face. Handlebar to seat is actually a really nice comfortable position. It's not too low but it's not too high, so you're still engaged in the bike and you feel like it's that kind of nimble, sporty like feel, because they're not raised up but you're not leant so far over that all the weight is on your wrist. The tank is fairly slim, but we do have these kind of plastic cowlings, fairings that push out either side, and your legs kind of just slot in nicely into those gaps. The pegs are, I would say, at the upper limit for comfort for me and my size. I am kind of in a locked in position, shall we say. If I'm riding duck feet, it's not too bad, but as soon as I then want to get in the twisties and get on it, and I put my toes on the pegs, it's very locked in. And lastly, I'd say for the ergonomics is I am finding the rear seat, the front of the passenger seat, is starting to hit kind of my coccyx, my back bum area. Again, when we jump off, we'll have a little look. So potentially, I know you can buy a seat cowl, so that might eliminate that problem, might get rid of the passenger seat, lower the amount of gubbins back there, so it's not hitting my body. Which for me personally, if I was buying this bike, is something I would do. Also, I think it just looks better. If you're not taking a passenger, get a seat off, get that seat cowl on it. Oh, look at this. Lovely day. Now, during the daytime, I'm not too worried because the indicators are daytime running lights as well, so they're always on. And I can just see the tip of the orange. Now, I don't know how that would fare at night time, if it would be a little bit more distracting. But yeah, I can just about see the runner lights. Even in sport mode, it's easy to keep it at 30 miles an hour, but then as soon as you want to go from 30 to 60, just twist it and we're there. Hey! Yeah, in sport mode, that first 10%, 5% pickup, twist that throttle, it does kind of jerk your body back a little bit. I'm finding where that passenger seat is kind of touching my bum. There are some vibrations coming through that. So again, another reason to get rid of it. But vibrations overall for the handlebars and the pegs, there aren't really any. It's literally just that passenger seat. I don't know about you guys, but I'm done with the 20, 25, 30,000 pound bikes. And then you go to look at them PCP and you're 250, 300 pound a month. Go on the day when biking used to be cheap. Handling then and flickability, it is kind of really, you feel the weight difference, or the weight. You really do feel the lack of weight in this when you are flicking this thing around. Turns out if you have a nice car, you can't drive properly. It is something when you jump on this bike for the first time that you notice the lack of weight and the low seat height. And the seat height is 805 mil. When we stop, I'll show you me on it properly. But for me, that is going to allow other people to ride this bike. And I say that because as soon as you get into kind of 830 and above, you start getting rid of the ability for certain people to ride this bike. I think this would be an absolute ideal bike for Zoe to test out. At the minute, she's got the MT-07. She'd like to look at something else. She doesn't know what at the minute. The MT-09 is something that she was considering. And to be honest, there's no reason why she shouldn't jump on this. I mean, it's cheaper as well. Even if she got the SP version, still cheaper than the MT-09, I believe. Can't remember. What I'd like to see in this is we've got a fuel gauge that not only shows you whereabouts with bars, but also shows you the fuel range. It's then I've got 27 miles left at the minute. Now we do only have 17 litres. It's not the biggest tank. It wouldn't surprise me the way Honda do their fuel, and that actually you still get a fair amount of miles from this tank. I wish the roads were dry. The exhaust note is really quiet until you kind of really start getting up towards the end of the rev range. If I was to buy this bike, a new exhaust is definitely something I would be chucking on it. I was on the configurator last night, and actually they do a SC project exhaust that you can grab from Honda. I think it's like 900 quid. On the sheet, obviously this isn't the torquiest with 104 newton-meters of torque, but actually, like I say, they've done a really good job at that low end grunt, that torque, and it just starts pulling and pulling and pulling when you're having a little bit of a spirited ride. I'm going over some of these bumps, and now we do have adjustable suspension on the standard, and I am finding it a little bit stiff. Hitting some of these potholes, I'm feeling it. Like I said, I'm a big bloke. Not denying that, so I would need to test and adjust the suspension just to kind of fine tune it for my weight. I believe you can turn off the traction control if you want to have a little bit more fun, if you know what I mean. But I think from what I've seen, you have to be stationary, so you can't do it whilst riding, which for me, I like to be able to turn it off, have some fun, turn it back on. Not gonna lie, third gear feels like that kind of perfect spot. That's what you want on a blind bend. Anyway, third gear is that sweet spot. You can be going around the corners at 35, 40 miles an hour, but then when you're on the faster twisties, it just keeps going. It just keeps going. This will do. I know you can't tell, but actually this is a bit of an incline, and it's that light I can walk it backwards. And here we go then. Let's looking. It's always a good one. Looking at the standard then, if you are picking this one, you've got 3 different colour options to pick from. We've got the grey, white or red. And now it is nice, it's kind of like a matte, metallic grey shine to it. I've no doubt that this video isn't doing it justice, but it does look really nice in person. But I have also seen the SP with its black and gold Odin's. Looking at the rear seat then, so this is the part that I was saying is actually hitting my bum. So the seat area isn't the biggest, obviously, otherwise my big derriere wouldn't be hitting this. Hopefully the seat cowl kind of gets rid of that hump, but I don't know. Now looking at the front then, tell me in the comments box below, do you reckon this looks more like the Ducati or the Kawasaki? I am actually a fan of the front end, whether it does look like the Kawasaki or Ducati, I don't really care. Obviously being that naked bike, there is a lot of exposed engine down the bottom. I know there is a under cowl that you can get as an extra. Got this Mahusive exhaust, which again I would 100% swap out. Side note, it was definitely the exhaust heat shield that was hitting my foot. There's not a lot of gap back there. As I said, looking at the brakes, they are Nissin. So we've got 310 dual floating at the front and then a 240 at the rear. Remember, 6'1". 805 seat height, both feet flat on the floor. The seat and the tank area in the central part is quite narrow. It doesn't spray your legs open too far like some other bikes. Nice bend in the legs. Like I said, you can feel the weight, or the lack of weight, should I say, in between your legs. Coming in at 211 kilos, this is nice and light. Now just quickly then covering off some of the differences between the standard and the SP. SP is another £1,000 more. It's only got one colour, which is black. Got the gold accents of the Öhlins, so that's another upgrade. We've swapped out the Nissins and we've got Brembo Stylemas on the brakes. The quick shifter is included. And then the brake horsepower is up 5, so 155, and Newton meters is up 3 to 107. So better colours. A little bit more torque, a little bit more brake, upgraded suspension, upgraded brakes, and the quick shifter. All for £1,000. I'm sorry, but it's a no-brainer. In my eyes, no-brainer. But then again, let's face it, if you wanted different suspension, you could just upgrade this. If you wanted better brakes, you could do pads and lines first. That's going to be a lot of a cheaper option to upgrade before touching anything else. More brake and torque, well, get the ECU flashed. Get rid of that exhaust. That's going to drop some weight. It's going to mean it's going to be a little bit quicker as well. Actually, talking about the weight, the SP is 1 kilo heavier at 212, and then you can pay obviously to add your quick shifter. You don't have to go Honda. There's aftermarket quick shifters out there as well. If you want it from the factory and you want it from Honda, you get the SP. But actually, all the parts it does give you, you can change and you can sort out yourself later on if you wanted to save yourself that £1,000 initially and then spend it elsewhere. Me personally though, I would get the comfort seat. My ass was a little bit numb when I got off. We also do have a rear fender in there to try and stop some of the gubbins getting kicked up underneath. But this time of year, it is very hard to keep any bike clean. Well, enough talking off the bike. Let's jump on it and finish off the review. The problem I find sometimes with the brakes on the demo bikes is obviously they're not really broken in. Sometimes I'm on a brand new bike. Luckily, this has been a popular demo already and it's got 200 odd miles. So the brakes are nicely bedded in. So I've got a nice amount of feel in the lever and it's like progressive braking. Not going to do too much. Mind the dead badger. My verdict on the new CB1000 then. This is definitely a bike I'm going to suggest Zoe comes and tests, because she really enjoyed the CB750 Hornet. But she didn't really want to step from a MT-07 to a 750. She wants to progress. She's been riding for a few years now. And so that's why obviously the MT-09 come up. But you'd be silly not to come and test this as well. As proven today, it's easy to ride in pretty much all conditions, whether it be town riding, back roads having a blast, or in these country roads where actually it's waterlogged and covered in gump. I don't love the bike because obviously there are certain things that I would change, but I do really like this bike. Sometimes you jump on a bike and you're like, this is it, this is the one I want. I would have to spend a little bit of money just kind of making it perfect for me. End of the day, that's the fun of owning a bike, isn't it? We don't like to all buy the same bike. and then not do anything to it, and we all ride around on stock bikes. We like making them our own. And this is a fantastic platform to do that. Like I was saying when I was talking about the SB, it's up to you. Obviously, if you want to get the standard and then adjust and tweak everything, whether it be the suspensions and the brakes, etc., or you buy the SB and go from there. So if you are in the market for a new bike this year, 100% come and check this bike out. If you are in the southwest coast area, check out Brunson's. You can take out this exact bike. What I like about this is that it's got that grunt, it's got the fun factor, but it's not ridiculous. Like when I say, if you've ever been on the Kawasaki ZH2, that is an absolute bonkers naked bike, and just way too much for the roads. This is hitting that sweet spot for me. Enough to keep it fun, keep it interesting, but I'm not holding on for absolute dear life. So much water. Yeah, I've seen English biker Dan, he's bought a standard. I've seen Chopsy, he's bought an SP. Seems to be they're all buying them. I do think it's funny thinking how our bikes used to be 10, 15 years ago compared to now, and how much tech is on them. Like before, you'd be lucky if your bike had traction control and ABS. Most of the sports bike didn't have fuel gauges, and that to me is where this bike's kind of almost going back to. And you know what? I'm fine with that. If it means keeping that overall price down, go back to the roots of riding. Why is it we ride? It's enjoyment, it's getting out. It's not having all the fancy tech, is it? Gotta love living in Somerset. Well guys, I hope you've enjoyed it, I hope you've found it useful. If you have, give it a thumbs up, more importantly subscribe to the channel. And there's nothing else to say, but get out there, keep riding, and ride safe.